percent of everything.
It's this idea that in order to find the needle, you have to take in the whole haystack, right? And you know, this led to a lot of problems in Britain, right? Because we were so eagerly helping Americans collect information about our people over here at home. A lot of people working at GCHQ, which is the British equivalent of the NSA, they were working on something called Operation Optic Nerve. And a lot of these women and men working in these offices were looking at webcams of people without them knowing, right? And you know, something like 10% of the stuff they could see on the webcams was like of a sexual nature. Because under late-stage capitalism, a lot of people make money from selling their services in this way, right? Through cam sex and all kinds of stuff. A lot of these women and men quit their jobs because they were so horrified by having to be made to watch these members of the British public while they did this form of prostitution, right? That's the level America's willing to go, putting Britain under pressure to spy on all of its citizens. If you have a phone,
was Russia able to just take
according to Edward Snowden, if even your phone is off, even when your phone is off, they have the capacity to tap in and listen to what you're saying through your phone, if they wanted to. Now, we cannot uninvent this technology. It's like nuclear weapons. But I think we can bring in regulations to stop this from being abused. Really, it's a terrible abuse to be able to do that to someone, to have that right. I don't think that's fair at all. So, yeah, I'm up here talking about Britain and America because I know more about those countries. I'm from Britain, I'm from the West.
Doesn't seem that way.
I don't know much about Russia, so I don't talk about Russia.
I know you don't.
But I talk about it as much as I can from what I've read from
You
Russian
shouldn't
authors,
talk about things you don't know
from
about.
Russian strategists. Their main, you know, I said earlier that America's main interest, or at least before Donald Trump, in most of American history, keep Europe together and keep Asia divided. And by Asia they include Russia, right? Keep all these places divided up. Russia's main interest is keep Russia together and keep Russia protected from American aggression. That's their main. They're terrified. You know how many troops are right on their border?
You just said that Ukraine is part of Russia. That Ukraine has that Russia has the right to go to Ukraine.
When did I say
you
that?
called Ukraine a sphere of influence of Russia. That Ukraine is a very man-made state. That it's
There's a difference between being in another nation's sphere of influence and being part of that other nation.
You said things.
I never said Ukraine is part of Russia. I never said Ukraine is part of Russia.
You said
it
that
was
Ukrainian
during the Soviet
borders.
Union's time.
What
Yes,
did
it
you
was.
say? What did you say? Tell me. What did you
I said during the time of the Soviet Union, the Soviets drew up the borders of places like Ukraine in a very artificial way. They didn't really pay attention to ethnic divisions.
Sure.
So that's why you have a lot of the eastern part of Ukraine that's very Russian, and then a lot of the west which is very Ukrainian. It's very artificial. It's not a
Why
unified
are there so
country.
many Russians in eastern Ukraine? Do you know about that?
Like I said, because the way the border was drawn up, they didn't pay attention
No,
to these
before
places.
that, why are there so many Russians
Well,
in eastern Ukraine?
I think I know what you're going to say. If I don't mind me saying, a lot of the Russians did put ethnic Russians into those places. I know that's what they did.
After they exterminated the Ukrainians.
Sure, like, no, listen. Am I getting up at Speaker's Corner today? Am I getting up here on this ladder, talking to all you lovely people who've been listening to me so long now, to say that I think Russia's a great country, not only to live in, but it's a
what
great
it sounds
country
like,
in the way
Kyle.
that it treats other
You're
countries?
saying
Have
poor,
I said
innocent,
anything that gives
defenseless
you that
Russia
impression?
is just trying to keep
Have I
itself
given any
alive, just
impression?
trying to survive. Now, my point is, a country that holds their people with an iron grip doesn't deserve to exist.
Have I said anything about how great? You know, in my area, I live in the Royal Borough of Kensington, Chelsea. You cannot throw a stone without hitting a Russian oligarch somewhere, right? Some of these people live in this borough. They've had to flee Russian oligarchs as well because they've been saying stuff about that government, criticizing it, writing stories, screenplays, articles. They raise questions about Putin and what kind of man he
does that
is.
say about
why is he enriching himself, building all these palaces in Spain and all these places? You know, why is it him and basically 100 other people
Why
who
does
run
he
everything in
own a
Russia?
huge part of Gazprom?
I am well aware. I read the newspaper. I'm well aware of what Russia's doing. I'm well aware of how Putin divides up his people by setting different protest groups against each
So why
other.
are you defending them?
I'm not defending
Yes,
them, my
you are
friend.
defending them.
But when you don't attack someone, you're not defending them. The thing is, right, British people are well aware of all of this. They're not stupid, my friend. I think you assume that the British people aren't aware of this. Very, very much they are aware of
No, they're not.
how, yeah, because often they live in places like Kensington where there are a lot of Russians coming in. So they talk to them.
Well, you
They
don't
know
seem
them.
to be aware of it.
Oh, my friend, you don't know what you're talking about.
I do know what I'm talking
Why
about.
do I get up at Speaker's Corner and I talk about Sri Lanka and Nigeria and Britain's participation in those genocides, helping those genocides unfold? Because the British people don't know about those things. The elites have been keeping that information away from us. It doesn't make sense to get up here on a ladder and just repeat things back that I've heard from the government or from the media. I want to share with you things that you may not know. I'm not assuming you don't know this, because some of you might know about Nigeria and Sri Lanka, but very, very likely, I don't want to sound condescending, but I don't think you do know most about this. I didn't know about the Sri Lankan Civil War and the violence that the British participated in until maybe last year or a couple of years ago. I lived my whole life thinking that this was a tragic tragic genocide that happened which had nothing to do with Britain. I lived my whole life thinking that. I had to do hours and hours of research. And remember, I'm an unemployed person. I have the time to do that. A lot of people don't have time to do that. So why would I get up at Speaker's Corner and criticize Russia? It's not my country.
You're not criticizing.
It's not my country. I'm not Russian. Why would I waste time doing that?
I'll
when
tell
we
you one
already
last thing,
criticize
and
Russia so much.
I'll leave.
When the media already do so much
Okay, Carl,
criticism
look,
to that country.
I'm leaving. I'll just tell you one last thing. If you want to criticize the West, do it. I do it all the time myself. Very often. Offer solutions to what the West is doing.
My solution is
Offer
democracy.
practical, actually
I have,
functional solutions.
Let me give you a solution right now.
I'll
Let me
finish
give
and
you a
then
solution
I'll
right
go.
now.
I'll go.
Well, why don't you get him on the ladder? I don't want you to leave.
I don't want to go on the left. I just want to say one last thing. Offer solutions, practical, functional solutions to
But
what
you-
is
you
going
don't-
on.
you don't
Don't
know.
start criticizing the West and saying and praising the enemies of the West.
So I have
Just
four-
because
I-
they are against the injustices of the West.
I have
They
four
are
things
worse.
to say about this. This gentleman here is telling me, why don't you offer solutions? You always criticize the West. First of all, I'm only criticizing
And you
Western
praise
leaders.
its enemies.
I'm only criticizing Western leaders. I'm not talking about the great ideals of this part of the world. And I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the leaders, the state, right? But I have four things to say to this. First of all, I am not obligated to come up with any solutions. Often, providing knowledge about the problem is a step towards the solution, and then I leave you up to do that yourself, because you're all adults.
You're standing here. I think
So
you have
that's-
the obligation
no,
of
I have no.
explaining
I actually have no
yourself.
obligation to speak about anything
Sure,
I don't want to speak about.
then don't do public.
I don't have any obligation to do that. at
Why
all.
are you doing this then?
Neither moral,
no solutions.
logical, or legal. I have
have
no
no solutions.
no obligation to do that.
Then we have no obligation to listen
Second of
to
all,
you.
like I said, actually just describing the problem is a form of the solution. You're starting the beginning of the solution.
First, you have to get the
The
facts.
third thing is you're all adults, right? Except for you. You're all adults. You're all grown up enough to know what you can do to solve the problem. You know that you could go on the internet and spend 5 minutes looking at organizations that might be solving this problem. There's the campaign against nuclear weapons, what's called the campaign for nuclear disarmament. There's the campaign against the arms trade. In different countries it's different, but in Britain I know what they are, you can find them out. So you're all adults, you can do it yourself. I'm not here to tell you.
Come take over everything from your humanity.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen.
Yeah, I remember. I was talking to that guy and he started shouting at me. You see, people